Yeah, everybody in the chat's going, how's a fanboy? How's fanboying? Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Johnny looks really excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get a lot of activity in the chat. There's a lot of action going on there. I can't read it.
Oh, yeah.
Sunglasses. I used to lie about that, but it was, I went backstage to see it was Velvet Revolver, and I came walking back, and Slash, I said, Slash, how's it going, man? He goes, who is it? I can't see. I'm wearing sunglasses.
Oh my God.
Well, he's going to be honest about it. I'm going to be honest about it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's,
sunglasses.
Well, it's, I find they're useful hiding eye rolls. That's the only time I wear sunglasses indoors is if I know, like, honestly, I think one of the only places I walked around in sunglasses at one point was Politicon, because I had to stand backstage with so many cretins and not let them know that I was onto them until we were on stage. Like, so many of them didn't know who I have a picture with Glenn Beck of all people, and he's literally grimacing in the picture. I was like, I got to do this. And he's going, because he literally didn't know whether he should smile or not in the picture with me, because he didn't know what was going to happen. So that's his default. Can you imagine going through life? I'm not going to smile with this person. They might hate me. Like,
well, you know what? I give him credit for that. Because I got pictures of me like, hey, saying something like, I'm like, wait a minute.
Right.
I just thought you were a fan.
Right. But he has to do that all the time. It's one thing to be caught, like going, I don't know this dude. He can't even know that.
The non-committal.
Yeah. Like, hey. And like, you can't make you look like you were on your way to an audition to be the next Colonel Sanders, and they said no thanks while you were in the car. So don't act like you're this tough dude. He's good. Well, I knew Colonel Sanders. Honest to God, I knew Colonel Sanders, and he is no Colonel Sanders. That's right. Yeah, Glenn Beck, you are no Colonel Sanders. He baked me a cake on my 10th birthday. That's a true story.
Really?
Yeah, random as hell at his wife's restaurant in Lexington, Kentucky. He used to knock boots with my great grandmother. It's a long story.
And it just gets heavier and cooler.
It does.
Coming back in 10 seconds.
Okay. We're 10 seconds away from me not being able to tell that story on the air. So, okay, we'll be hold on. We're coming back.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
I have to say, the conversations during the break are worth subscribing to the YouTube channel just on its own, infotainmentworks.com. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the good stuff happened while you were on the commercial break. The best
boy, did it. But, in keeping with what we were talking about during the first break, when you first entered the show, which was kind of sidelined from what we're talking about, and I think it's important because we're talking about going out on a limb. And there's, in a world of like current anti-vaxxers where people are going, this is science that works, and they're against it. There's another side, which is an area that science hasn't fully explored that deserves exploration. And you were bringing up this is the second annual Thank You Plant Medicine Day. And a lot of people may know that, or maybe they don't, that you and I are both teetotalers. We're both, what would used to be called straight edge. I don't drink or do any drugs whatsoever, never have. You've never been high that I'm aware of other than the stage experience, that you get when you're up there.
Yeah. And there's a video I do with my family on Instagram and Facebook. Check it out. And I talk specifically about that. I lived during the decade of decadence and never got high.
Yeah.
Never did any drugs, never drank, no hallucinogens, no marijuana, certainly no plant medicines.
Right.
And yet in the last several years, my entire family, including my wife, have got very involved with plant medicines and have had miraculous personal experiences with mental health and physical health.
Mm-hmm.
That as an outside observer, what I've seen and what I've experienced, and I've tried to.
Right.
And so I'm becoming an ambassador for medicines, because I think, and I'm seeing it by the reactions. People go, let's take it a little more serious, because I'm a participant, and I'm not that guy. I'm not Woody Harrelson or one of these pot smokers. I'm not not anything wrong with it. But I'm that guy who goes, no, I don't do that. But this is for real. What's happening, and it has value. It is important.
I think that's the value of the statement you bring to it, because I was always dragged along for the, and I supported them, but I was always asked along for the legalize or decriminalize marijuana stuff that I did with Danny Glover and Melissa Etheridge and others in the state of California and other states, because on a basic level, you're like, look, a nonviolent pot user, we're throwing them in jail, and for the cost of having them in jail for a year, we could have 2 teachers in the school budget. You understand, like, the value versus what you're getting in normal just fiscal responsibility? Like, that just makes sense to me. And they're not a danger to society. There's even an argument they're not harming themselves within limits. So why would I do that? Why would I have this prohibition behavior that would build up gangs in the same way that Al Capone ruled Chicago? So I had benefit instead of Bill Maher or somebody who's obviously just arguing for their own usage. Like they just don't want to be hassled by the cops. But I gave a voice to it in a way that I was like,
or at least it appears that way. Or at least people can write it off as that. I don't think that's necessarily fair to say.
It is about Bill.
Cases, whether Woody Harrelson, he has an appreciation for it, but I don't think it's just I like to get hood. I think they really have a respect for it. But for you to say it just has gravitas because they don't expect us just to endorse it. But you know what? I was never anti-drugs or anti-alcohol. I'm anti-a-holes. If you're capable of maintaining, some of my closest friends were out of there. Let me kill Mister. We had an incredible friendship relationship. That guy was maintaining at a level people can't even imagine during his lifetime. And yet, but he always was Lemmy and under control. And he respected that it wasn't a choice for me. I respected his choice. So let's be clear, I'm not anti-drugs, alcohol. Not right for me. And to each his own within reason.
And that's a strange, you have to understand, that's a very strange perspective in our modern culture in a lot of ways. And right now, in the political world, a lot of, even though you and I are seen as leftists by the right, in a lot of ways, what we're arguing for is functional government so we can all get on with the business of not being businessy. And, it's not like we're looking for everybody to live a bank manager's life. That's not the purpose. It's that you need it. You need the system operating and run by people who care and really want the best for everybody, even if they don't agree with them on political terms, so that the rest of us can get on with making music, making comedy, delivering content that people like, making films and the like, and it's the same thing with drugs. Most people are either for it and in it or against it in that very distinct line. And, you being that ambassador is kind of the fascinating part. So you were saying that like your family's had an experience with this.
Incredible. And this, again, I'm an outside observer. I'm not in the Maloka. This is where they ayahuasca. My son Cody, who's a film director, he starts his first movie. They start filming in May with Margot Robbie and Michael Shannon. He had ADHD, chronic, not just this, let's medicate the kids stuff. And he struggled with the meds, struggled with trying to find he's a writer, director, and he would sit in front of a computer some days and just be a move, and he went and he got into brain mapping and the Almond Clinic where they used magnets to try to, and he had all these dead spots in his brain from sport accidents during his childhood. And he had his brain map before he went to Peru. When he came back, not only was he cured of ADHD, but they mapped his brain again, not knowing he had done ayahuasca. As a matter of fact, the clinic was anti-ayahuasca. And they said, wow, the dead spots are fixed. They're gone. And they were mystified. How did that happen? How did the brain reroute itself into synapses and whatever? And he hasn't had ADHD since. That was miraculous. Two of my kids suffered from depression, and they was cured through plant medicine. My wife had chronic stomach issues her whole life, and we were under a nutritionist care. When she went and did ayahuasca, it was gone. Her chronic stomach issues were gone. And when our nutritionist, who did not know was a regular medical doctor, did her blood work post ayahuasca, he was mystified. He said, it's like the blood work of a different person. And she didn't tell him what happened. And I know what happened. You did ayahuasca. Holy crap.
Yeah.
You know,
and so
it's
it's not the first time that science has either stiff-armed something they should be studying or accepted perhaps something that they shouldn't be, and in terms of, look at opioids right now. We're all hearing about how OxyContin, oxycodone, which are derivative opioid drugs made by pharmaceutical companies from a plant medicine, both used for tripping and for medicinal purposes all over the earth for time immemorial, right? And literally, the Bayer Aspirin Company created heroin. Heroin is a brand name for an opioid, and it was named that for its heroic effects on pain. So maybe science was just burned at one point because they made this big mistake with heroin by concocting this thing, chasing this thing. And then there was just from now on, it's only stuff we can make chemically in a lab, and that doesn't have any of this history to it, perhaps. But now that we're entering a phase of trusting science, I think it's it could be the dawning of an era where science looks into these things without fear or favor, not expecting it to turn out the way people are saying, but not afraid that, oh yeah, we did tests on ayahuasca. We did controlled clinical trials on the benefits of it. We did, brain scans before and after. We did, we looked at people's blood work. We understood what part of ayahuasca is beneficial. Maybe there's a way of like we've done with other things, removing the psychotropic aspects of it, like CBD oil has caught on in a lot of ways. Initially, they couldn't even look into the benefits that pot brought to a lot of people because you wouldn't even allowed to look at it, because you'd lose your license. And so some of that, is I think part of that unique thing. And I think why, for lack of a better phrase, brand ambassadors on exploration and not being afraid, like yourself, and to some degree myself, like, I'm not interested in using this. I'm not just doing this. And by the way, earlier when I was talking about people who just want to cover for their own use, I was only talking about Bill Maher in that moment. Everybody else were pretty good about it. But it was clear that he was like, I just don't want to get hassled in my house. Like, it was so personal. And that's why nobody listens to him when he argues it. That's the problem. So when you do know, somebody in our chat room was saying, let's science this. Let's science the S out of this, as the Martian once said. There's value in looking into this stuff. Whoops, we froze for a second.
Yes, there's got to be an actual reaction, something that can be broken down scientifically, and said this is what occurred during this. When this plant, whatever was in this plant, came into your body, it caused this reaction, and let's science the F out of it. That's what we need to do. Right.
Exactly. It's like, and this is where we find out that in Star Trek, that little thing that they wave over you was actually science from ayahuasca. It's an ayahuasca ray, they figured out, and so McCoy just had an ayahuasca ray and he just over you, and that's what does it. But until we dare to look, we won't be able to find out. So we got to take another break.
Please.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Go ahead. No.
All right.
I think you were going to say, don't do this unguided. Right. Don't do it. Right.
Like you need a prescription and doctor's care.
Yeah.
Some guidance with this to do it something you can order and just start eating ayahuasca or smoking.
We are not. We are arguing. We are arguing for science to do its due diligence, not everybody to race down to some like pup tent in South America and start doing whatever they hand you in a bowl. That's not. That's not what we're looking for. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this with more of Dee Snider, Johnny Million. This is the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. I know which hour is going to be the podcast this weekend, though, when they turn it.
And go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll be back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad we got to bring that up because I also think it lays into, and again, we're in a little bit of a break, like 2 minutes, but I think it lays into that being that kind of sideline viewer where you're not as invested as the person who's experienced it and may want it to work and maybe experiences a placebo effect, which can also be a part of any of these things, or the people who are like, it will never work. And then they have a nocebo effect, meaning that they would deny its worth even if they saw it happen. Right. Mm-hmm. And, being on the side of it and going, I'm not interested. I'm not doing it. I'm just looking at it as an observer, as a scientist would do, and going, is it helping and where does it help? Can we limit it to just its usage to just where it helps and somehow find a way to extract the parts that don't help? And then then we call it medicine. That's what we call medicine in our world.
Very true. And I would go even further on my end, call myself a cynic. Okay.
Yeah.
My wife went on a spiritual path and it led her down here and the kids all went with her. And I was very cynical, mm-hmm. And so, but I can't, I'm not going to be that person who just goes, what do you say? Nocebo, nocebo. I'm going to sit there and be a denier,
right.
I'm not that guy. So once I start seeing the real reality of it, I can't deny this.
Right.
So this has changed my wife and changed my son and my daughter and my other son. And, I said, this is undeniable. Plus all the vets with the PTSD and how many, more and more of them are turning to plant